The top 5 mistakes new investors make on Sub2 deals. That's what we're talking about today on the Sub2 Deals Show. Hey, deed grabbers, welcome to this episode of the Sub2 Deals Show, where we talk about all things subject to. And occasionally we'll talk about other real estate investing topics, but it's always something to help you with your real estate investing business. If you're listening to our podcast on Apple or Google or any of the other podcast platforms, we'd like to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel at sub2tv.com. That's SUB, 2TV.com. If you watch our podcast, you can see our smiling faces, and you can also check out all the other videos that we release every single week, just about a new one every day. And if you're already checking us out at sub2tv.com, hit the subscribe button. You know, statistics tell us that about 75% of you that watch our videos aren't subscribed. And if you aren't subscribed, that means you may miss new videos when we release them. We don't want you to do that. So hit that subscribe button and let us teach you creative finance in Sub2. We'd also like to invite you to download our free creative finance guide. We've got a creative finance guide that's a massive ebook that covers several different ways to buy property using creative finance in Sub2 without using cash, without using banks, without using money in a lot of cases. So get out there, get that guide, and you can do that at Sub2Deals.com. That's SUB, 2 deals.com/CFG. So go check that out. And lastly, if you are new to creative finance, maybe you're not even new, you just want to pick up some extra tips and tricks on your business at an affordable price, you can go to $7coaching.com. We'll teach you creative finance for $7 a month. I'll answer all of your questions for you on a Facebook Live every week. We also do a training call on a monthly basis for $7 a month. Guarantee you can't beat it. So guys, today we're talking about the top 5 mistakes that new investors make in Sub2. Now, this is top 5 based on my interactions with new investors and some of the questions that I get. Are there other ones? Are there other mistakes? You bet. But these are probably the top 5. Number 1 on our list is not checking title. Gosh, even though you're buying a house Sub2, you're not having to get new financing. Someone maybe is just handing you the keys to the house without any money or anything else. You've got to check the title on that. And that means getting a title report from your title company or your attorney if you're in an attorney state. You've absolutely got to do that. You need to know how many mortgages, how many liens, and all that business before you buy that house, or you're buying what we call in the South a pig and a poke. You don't know what you're getting. So make sure that you get title run, even if you're buying Sub2. You want to order that, take a look at it, know the condition of title. And there are services online that you can use, and we've used those from time to time. But I'll tell you, it's always best to use a local title company, the one that you use to close any of your other deals that you're doing, somebody you can actually talk to face to face. Yeah, you can do it another way if you're remote. But whenever possible, use somebody local. Those guys get down to the courthouse in a lot of cases. And in some counties, you have to go to the courthouse. You can't do this stuff online, especially in the more rural counties. But you want somebody down there doing a thorough title search. And you can expect to pay between $150 and $300 for that, depending on your relationship with the title company and how much they charge. And I'll tell you, the truth of the matter is, if your seller has an institutional mortgage with a larger bank, with title insurance, what you need is a title search from your current owner to the present day, from the time they bought it until today. Some title companies will call that a current owner and encumbrance report. You don't need a full-blown title search. Some title companies will do that for you less expensively, some won't, but you do need to take a look at that. If you're not experienced in it, you definitely want to get it done by a reputable company. And I would even go so far as to say you need to learn how to do this yourself. I got started that way. I started in Georgia, which was an attorney. My attorney was an old guy, and he went down to the courthouse himself and did it. And one of the times after he had done several for me, I said, "Hey, Wayne," I said, "can I come down to the courthouse for this one? And you show me what to do?" And he said, "Sure, come on." So he did. He showed me. And from that point on, I could go down and take a peek if it was something that had to be done in a hurry. So it's very important to do that. You want to make sure you get that done on your deals. Number 2 on our list is not having an investor-friendly title company or attorney to work with that understands what you're trying to accomplish. And, let's make sure that we really understand what we're saying here. You can have an investor-friendly title company that won't close a Sub2 transaction for you, or perhaps won't close it for you the way that you want it closed. There are some disadvantages to closing a Sub2 deal with a title company. The primary one, and I experienced just this year. We got a house under contract that in good condition was probably worth around $300,000. We got it under contract and bought it for $69,000. Long story about how that came about. The people were in foreclosure. They had owned the house for 22 years. They hadn't made a payment in 2 years for COVID purposes. They were in the middle of a divorce. The husband had a huge alcoholism problem. They had just a bunch of stuff going on, and they really just wanted to get out of it. They had a couple of liens on the house from not paying state income tax and a couple other things. And they really just wanted to get out of it. They said, "We just don't want to have a foreclosure. We're going our separate ways. We're doing some stuff." But we closed this with a title company. And because of that, public record actually showed what we paid for the house. So it showed that we paid $69,000. Our exit strategy for this house was to list it on the MLS, just to flip it as is. And because public record showed what we had paid for the house, it impacted the amount of the offers that we received. This house needed some work. We figured it probably needed $40,000 worth of repair. And so most of our offers were investor offers. And smart investors know to look things up, and their agents know to look things up. And that we figure that just the fact that we closed with a title company and it made the purchase price public record probably cost us $50,000 on the sale of this house. So for that reason, whether or not you close with a title company is up to you. Some deals, I think it's better off to do it yourself, but it's really important that you go to the trouble to do the work to find a title company that understands what you want to do. A lot of title companies won't close a Sub2, especially if it's an FHA or VA loan, and they use the reasoning that it may impact their ability to do those in the future. And I don't believe that. I believe a lot of times title companies say that they can't do something, and it's really not based on law. It's based on their preferences or what they want to do. And that's certainly their right. You're going to have to kiss a lot of toads in many cases to find that title company or that attorney that's going to understand what you're doing and be willing to work with you. But let me tell you, the difference is night and day when you finally have that person that's the one to work for you. So take the time, use investor references if you can, but get out there and find a title company that is what we call your people, that understand what you're doing, that are okay with it, and that know, you're not breaking the law by taking title subject to. The third biggest mistake is trusting your seller. Listen, we want to think the best of people. We want to think no one will mislead us or misrepresent anything. But the fact is, people in trouble say all kind of stuff. And you'd be surprised at the number of times in 25 years I found cases where people just happened to forget about second mortgages they had, happened to forget about liens or judgments or child support issues that come up on that title search, and then you have to go back and either renegotiate the deal or walk away from it. So, you know, when I write up a contract, when I'm sitting at a kitchen table with a seller and I write up a contract, I believe everything they tell me. Okay. That's what the due diligence period's for. That's what that week or 2 weeks or however long you give yourself to verify everything. That's what that's for. I'll write that thing up. If they tell me they've got a 2.5% interest rate loan, and that their payments are current and that they only owe 200,000, I'm going to believe it all, and I'm going to write the contract up that way. My job is to get that house under contract and then sort it out. Okay. Don't fall into the trap of meeting with a seller, listening to them. It sounds like a great deal, and then walking away to verify it before you get it under contract. Get it under contract under the terms that they tell you, and the conditions, the interest rate, the loan balance. Write it up according to that, and then check it out. And then if things don't work out, go back, renegotiate, or cancel the deal. Get it under contract, have it under your control, then you can proceed at your own pace. Don't try to check it out first, but don't make the mistake of just trusting them and not checking title, not checking loan balances, closing on the deal and finding out later they didn't owe 200, they owed 250. The interest rate wasn't 2.5, it was 5.5. What did President Reagan say? Trust but verify. That's what you want to do. Mistake number 4, not understanding the Sub2 process. You know, we get questions every day. Which forms do we need to use? You know, can someone with a VA loan get a second loan? What do we tell a seller in this case, in that case? You need to educate yourself on the Sub2 process. You know, I tell people all the time, you can buy Sub2 with nothing more than a deed. I don't think that's a good idea. I think there are several documents that you need to have. You need to have a limited and specific power of attorney. You need to have an authorization to release. You need to have several disclosures that explain in excruciating detail what's happening, what's going to happen, how this may impact the seller. But you really need to understand the process. Now, there's several people that teach Subject to, and I'm not going to say any one is right or wrong. There are many ways, you know, to skin a cat. But you want to make sure you're protected. You want to make sure that your seller's protected. You want to make sure your future buyer, if you sell on a wrap, is protected. And there are several things you need to do to ensure that. So make sure you understand the process. Make sure that if you don't understand it, that you either grab someone there locally that does it, that's willing to take the time to teach you, to show you the ropes, or you get a coach or a trainer that can do that for you, that can be there to answer those questions for you when you have them, and that is actually doing this business. You'd be surprised at how many people out there teach and don't do or haven't done in years and years. And you want to make sure that you've got somebody in the marketplace and their information is relevant. So make sure that you're doing that. And the last mistake on our list today, certainly not the last one in the list, but the last one on our list today, is not making sure that your paperwork that you're using is appropriate for your state and jurisdiction, because states vary. I'll give you a really good example of that. There are some states that have foreclosure protection laws. Those states can have very, very strict rules on, first of all, if you can even deal with people in foreclosure. And if you do, your contracts have to have specific wording and sometimes right down to the font size of that wording. So if you do have a trainer, if you do have a coach, if you download contracts off the internet, gosh, doesn't matter where you got your paperwork from. If you bought it from some mentorship program that cost $20,000, or if you got it for free off the internet, make sure you run it by a local attorney for compliance with your state. If you don't do that, you could have some big problems down the road. We want to make sure that doesn't happen. Unless you got your paperwork from someone that's actually doing business in your area, that's reputable, that knows what's going on, and is aware of the laws themselves. You, in most every case, please spend the money for 1 hour with your attorney to go over it and make sure that it's proper. Okay. Anything can be wrong in that stuff, from the language right down to the notary acknowledgement. As I know from my first Sub2, where I used a form straight out of a course that was written for Colorado, and I was working in Georgia. I totally screwed that deed up. I had a really good attorney, and he got everything fixed up for me. So listen, I know a lot about these things because I've made these mistakes, and I don't want to see you make the same ones. So make sure that all your paperwork is run by a local attorney in the state that you're doing business, because you don't want to get into any trouble down the road. So anyway, the top 5 mistakes that new investors make doing Sub2 deals. Guys, don't make them yourself. So that's going to be it for this episode of the Sub2 Deals Show. Guys, if you're looking for some coaching, again, you can check us out at $7coaching.com. Or if you're looking for more advanced coaching and you enjoy things like 3 times a year, 4-day in-person mastermind events, join us at our premium coaching program, Sub2 Max. That's SUB, the number 2, MAX. We'd love to have you join us. Either of our programs are super affordable. We don't have any of those $10 or $30 or $50,000 mentorship programs. We want to keep this stuff affordable for you. We want to make a difference in a ton of people's lives out there. So check out either of those programs. We'd be glad to talk to you more about them. So until our next time together, get out there, talk to some sellers, and buy some houses.